Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to explore a completely unexpected but absolutely brilliant connection. We are actually bridging the gap between 17th century artistic mastery and the absolute cutting edge of modern sports biomechanics. I know, it sounds totally impossible, right? But stick with me because by the time we finish, you'll see exactly how the genius of a legendary painter holds the literal secret to athletic perfection. We're talking about that invisible, split-second fraction of time that separates a gold medalist from everybody else. And to understand the future of human performance, we actually need to rewind and look roughly 350 years into the past. Okay, let's dive into this. As the art historian Walter Liedtke pointed out back in 2001, we know almost nothing about the actual day-to-day life of Johannes Vermeer. He is, without a doubt, one of the most mysterious figures in all of art history. I mean, the guy left behind practically no letters, no diaries, absolutely no records of his daily thoughts. But what he did leave behind was a legacy of absolute, almost unimaginable precision. While other painters of his era were totally focused on these grand, sweeping myths, Vermeer was searching for something else entirely. He was hunting for the absolute mathematical precision of light and space inside totally ordinary, everyday moments. And this brings us to an incredibly fascinating thesis that Dr. Christophe Delong and Kinexa present. They're proposing something totally revolutionary here. They argue that the underlying principles of Vermeer's artistic mastery, his absolute obsession with capturing reality with literally zero margin for error, well, those principles directly map onto the modern science of sports biomechanics and motor control. It's this amazing intersection. It's the exact point where the fine art of perfect execution and the hard mathematical science of athletic precision just violently, brilliantly collide. Just think about this stark historical contrast for a second. On one side, we've got Vermeer. Over a 20-year career, he painstakingly painted just 34 surviving works. That's an average of roughly one painting every 7 months. Then, on the other side, you have a giant like Pierre-Auguste Renoir, who pumped out around 4,000 works. Now, Renoir was an impressionist, right? His whole goal was to quickly capture a fleeting feeling, usually with these rapid, loose brushstrokes. But Vermeer was building absolute spatial perfection. And this really establishes our core theme today. True, absolute precision and perfect, deliberate execution is always going to be sheer, uncalibrated quantity. And just look at the result of that kind of unparalleled dedication. 350. For over 350 years, the greatest museums on the planet have fiercely fought over those exact 34 Vermeer paintings. And why? Because the quality is unmatched by almost anyone else in human history. Seriously, when you stand in front of a Vermeer, it doesn't even feel like you're looking at paint on a canvas. It feels like you're looking through a literal window into reality. You can barely even see a brushstroke. The depth and the flawless nature of those 34 pieces created a legacy that easily outlasts thousands and thousands of merely good or approximate works. Now, if we take this exact same logic from the 17th century art world and drop it right into a modern gym or a high-tech training facility, the science of motor learning tells us the exact same thing. Think about your own workouts or any physical discipline you practice. 10 perfect repetitions will always triumph over 100 sloppy, approximate ones. Why? Well, because every single time you move, your brain is insulating its neural pathways with a substance called myelin. If you practice sloppy reps, you aren't just wasting time, you are literally hardwiring those bad habits directly into your nervous system. Kinexa applies this exact philosophy to athletic training, demanding profound depth and neurological quality over mindless, repetitive quantity. To really understand how deep this goes, imagine the masterpiece, The Girl with a Pearl Earring. Vermeer captured light here in a way that is almost scientifically impossible to replicate by hand. Just imagine the sheer physical feat required to pull this off. You have to hold a brush so incredibly steadily that you can perfectly paint the micro-reflection of a window inside the curve of a tiny pearl. To do that, Vermeer had to possess extraordinary visual sensitivity combined with absolute unwavering hand stability. His visual perception of the world and his actual physical output were in total, completely unbroken alignment. So the crucial point is how this beautiful artistic metaphor actually translates into hard, measurable neuroscience. What Vermeer had is exactly what neurophysiologists call a highly optimized closed sensory motor loop. This loop, it is the ultimate secret weapon of elite athletes, top-tier neurosurgeons, and concert pianists. It's perfectly synchronized perception and flawless motor execution, functioning together as a single unified system that's been constantly calibrated over years of intense, deliberate focus. Behind the scenes of literally any great movement, whether that's crushing a fastball or painting a masterpiece, motor precision depends entirely on the speed and the fidelity of this loop. It's all about how incredibly fast your brain can detect a positional error using its proprioceptive sensors. Think of proprioception as your body's internal GPS. It's the system that tells your brain exactly where your limbs are in 3D space without you ever having to actually look at them. True mastery lies in how quickly your brain gets that GPS data and then proportionately sends a precise corrective motor command right back to the muscles. And the crazy part? All of this happens invisibly in mere milliseconds. Now, to achieve this level of photographic precision long before cameras even existed, Vermeer relied on a 17th century technological tool called a camera obscura. Basically, it was a dark room or a box with a tiny pinhole. Light from the outside world would pass through that pinhole and project an inverted, exact image of the scene onto a flat surface inside. It was a game changer. It allowed Vermeer to literally trace the exact cinematic reality of a scene, the exact angle of a resting finger, the exact tilt of a relaxed body, the perfect, natural fall of light on a piece of fabric. And today, Kinexa serves that exact same function for modern coaches. Kinexa is literally the camera obscura of movement. Now, it definitely doesn't replace a coach's wisdom or an athlete's raw intuition, not at all. Instead, it projects kinematic reality, meaning it shows the exact angles, physical forces, and speeds of a human body in motion, with a hyper-detailed resolution that the naked human eye simply cannot process on its own. It gives coaches direct, unfiltered access to the hidden mechanics of human motion. You see, Vermeer's light was never just decorative, it was deeply informational. Take his painting, The Milkmaid. He painted a fallen piece of bread so perfectly, getting the exact right shadows, the texture, the perspective, that it actually mathematically proves the physics of the entire room. It proves the spatial geometry is correct. In biomechanics, analyzing a movement is the exact same concept. You aren't just looking at the overall broad gesture. You are looking for the tiny, almost microscopic detail that proves the entire physical system is firing correctly. For example, a flawless toe-off essentially proves that the mechanics of the whole leg chain are sound. And this brilliantly illustrates what Kinexa is actually looking for out there. They hunt for these invisible details that happen in the literal blink of an eye. We're talking about a knee angle specifically at 15 degrees of flexion right before a jump, or the hip rotation speed in just the first 50 milliseconds of a rapid pivot, or maybe a tiny microtremor in the wrist on an athlete's final repetition. These microsignals are the breadcrumbs. They prove that the overall structure of the movement is solid, efficient, and physically sustainable over time. So, to mathematically evaluate this kind of true motor mastery, Kinexa relies on a really structured methodology built on 3 core pillars. First up, they measure the quality of the sensory motor loop, that vital millisecond delay between error detection and muscular correction. Second, they focus on the extraction of those invisible microdetails we just talked about. And third, crucially, they calculate a specific index of precision constancy over a set period of time. Let's zoom in on that second pillar for a second because the tech here is absolutely breathtaking. We are talking about extracting the invisible during incredibly intense movements, like a heavy 500-pound deadlift, a deep Olympic squat, or a full-speed sprint. Kinexa reads joint angles down to half a degree. They measure segmental rotation speeds to within 2 degrees per second. And maybe the craziest part, they measure intramuscular activation delays to within 10 milliseconds. That means they are measuring the exact microscopic delay between one muscle firing and the next muscle successfully catching the load. This is pure, unfiltered data reading a reality that our eyes just can't see. Which brings us right to the third pillar, beautifully connecting the hard science back to the fine art. The magic number is 34. Kinexa measures the stability of an athlete's physical precision over exactly 34 repetitions. And yes, this directly, intentionally mirrors Johannes Vermeer's 34 perfect lifetime paintings. They aren't looking for one single lucky maximum output. Anyone can do that. They are actively measuring the constancy of your precision over 34 flawless executions to see if your nervous system truly deeply owns that movement. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're a 17th century Dutch master wielding a tiny paintbrush or an elite 21st century athlete wielding a loaded barbell. True mastery is never just a single isolated peak performance. Like we said, anyone can get lucky once. True mastery is the constancy of precision over time. It's the profound, hard-earned ability to repeat absolute perfection, again and again and again, without a single drop in quality. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with a question to challenge your own approach. Whether you're stepping into the gym, managing a team, or simply honing your own daily craft, are you simply measuring quantity and celebrating thousands of loose approximations? Or are you, like Vermeer and Kinexa, relentlessly looking for that specific micro detail that reveals absolutely everything about your foundation? Think about that next time you step up to perform. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I will see you next time.